All right, guys, welcome to our annual show and tell for FM Better Forms and for our community. We have about 10 or 12 presentations today, and we're really excited. About half of the presentations are going to be from our team and about half are from our community. We'll sort of mix and match them, and we'll try to keep moving along. We got about 6 to 10, 12 minutes for each presentation. Some have a little bit longer because there's a little bit more to see. If you do have questions, by all means, please jump right in right away in the chat. The team is monitoring the chat, and we'll voice the questions, and or you can feel free to interrupt the person as well. We're going to start off with, I believe we're starting off with Michael, who's one of our developers in our team, and he's going to be presenting something on behalf of João from Portugal with his company and his app. So I'll switch it over to you there, Michael.
Hi everybody. So I'll be presenting a app that's called Fashion Detail. Pretty much it's a app that has a catalog of all of the items that this company is essentially selling. So on like the homepage here, they have a couple different tabs that you can go into, which kind of has different items in it. And you can just click on one of them to go kind of through it. And then each tab has different categories, which has kind of different items in it. And it also shows how many items are in each category. So there's like a whole list here, and you can click through whatever one you want and go through it. And then essentially this loads all of the, like the way they have it organized is all the items are on separate cards. Then inside each of these cards, you can click on them and essentially see like a bit of a bigger view of all the items in it. And then in addition, you can also kind of scroll through the different cards and see what's there. And then underneath each card, there's basically just kind of like a list of all the items. And when you click on them, it brings up kind of like a larger view of them. And you can scroll through them and take a look. Sometimes it takes a little bit to load, but there you go. And you kind of scroll through them and see like the different items that they're selling. And in addition, inside each of the kind of categories, some of them have subcategories which you can go into, which essentially splits up all the products into kind of different subcategories. And similarly, you can go through them and click on the items and see them. And then also, as you can see here, there is a kind of breadcrumb navigation which we implemented, which shows what kind of card you're on, and then what subcategory you're in, what category, and then you can go back to the separate tab through there. It's all working, so you can kind of click through it, and it brings you back to where you were originally.
Nice.
And then also at the top, we have different kind of just different tabs which have items from separate categories. So for example, on here we have like eco items, which like a lot of feathers, and kind of there are some little patches here which talk about kind of the earth and stuff which you can buy. And similarly, you can, through all these tabs, the kind of functionality is the same. You can scroll through them and click on the individual items.
Michael, there's one of the questions are the images in the database or not, and why? And I can probably address that one if you like, or if you want to, doesn't matter.
I can also talk about it.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so pretty much all of the images are separate links, which are stored in FileMaker. And then when you're on the page, they're just kind of loaded in. So for example, here, it takes the image from the data model and then loads it when you click on the page. This kind of takes a second to load. However, there's probably some ways we can kind of overcome this, but yeah, they're stored in the database.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought he had them on a remote link originally.
Or like he does have them on a link, just all those individual links.
Oh, the links.
Yeah.
I see. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the actual digital asset is sitting on, I believe originally it was Squarespace that João had them. He was using Squarespace asset hosting off his Squarespace site. And one of the problems with that, of course, is you can't search and you can't organize the data or anything like that because it's not stored as data. So rather than move all of the assets, he's got all the links in the FileMaker, and then so the links are being served up by FileMaker, but the asset comes remotely. And this could easily be from S3 or something else as well.
Yeah, I did. That was my question. And I'm just wondering if like you could do something that is a preload the images in, JavaScript
Certainly.
at the top of the page, if that would kind of seem like it would speed it up.
Yeah, so actually, that's kind
Okay.
of what we're doing for this
Okay.
card modal. Like the first one takes a little bit to load. However, the rest of them are being preloaded.
Awesome.
Yeah, so they're automatically loaded. And that's why they can kind of load, or like they're automatically rendered there. I think preloading them in like the on-form load script would also help this one load faster, but we haven't implemented that yet.
Awesome. That's come a long way since I saw it last, which a few months ago.
And actually, he's in the call right now. He's on the road, but he was able to watch in on the presentation.
Cool. So any other questions?
Somebody asked, Neil asked, are you able to purchase via the app? Joan's is a wholesaler, so his clients purchase, create purchase orders from what I understand separately. So these are not for the public. These are for, other stores and such. The digital assets are not actually stored in FileMaker. They're stored in a third-party repository. In this case, I believe it's Squarespace. So they're not. So FileMaker is only returning a URL. So it's a small amount of data, light burden on FileMaker.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Hey.
Sorry. I'm on the move, but just to address some information about my app. So, in fact, all the files are stored in FTP server. So it's on my website. It's not on Squarespace anymore because our initial catalog was on Squarespace, synced with Dropbox. So it was a complete mess. And thankfully, I found FM Beta Forms, and it was a challenge to start building this, but if you know how to code in FileMaker, it will transform completely the way you manage this. At this moment, I believe, I don't know, who is in control of the website at this moment. Can you go to the main page, please? So we can see, because on the main page, I believe we have at this moment 3,197 cards. That is the card with a bunch of items, and we have 20,000 individual items. So everything is stored on our FTP based on a UUID of each item and in each card. And then FileMaker just send a JSON to FM Beta Forms, and then the FM Beta Forms do the rest. So I'm really happy how this ends up. It still has some ideas in front, like favorites, like individual. It's not a shopping cart, but because we work mainly B2B, so we don't work with final consumer. So the idea is to allow my customers to go in and to favorite some items and put them in collections. So imagine if a customer is working with a brand, so they can go to my website and then can select different items. So they can, after that, ask us for the price and for the production times, whatever. So I believe it's come a long way, but it's getting better each day.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Joan.
You're welcome. Now I have to hit the road, so I will keep on the call, but maybe driving. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Joao, last question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Tell me.
How you transfer the image to the FTP? Use the REST API function in a script or what?
I use a FileMaker plugin MBS from Christian. So everything is immediately, for each card and each item, I send 2 pictures to my FTP. One of the picture is a small one, and the other one is the original one of the full size. So UUID underscore full, UUID underscore small, and I send everything to FTP, and then FileMaker and FM Beta Forms do the rest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Michael. And Michael, if you could
No
just
problem.
stay on that, I noticed you have the editor open in another page.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually demonstrate next here. So if you want to stay on that page, that actually works out
Okay.
really well. All right, we're going to jump over to my screen. We're starting to see teams develop more and more now as in a collaborative fashion. And in this particular case, I have a page here that I'm editing, but I also noticed we've added this new collaboration feature, and it was partially added, but not all fully implemented. So we've just finished off rolling off this implementation. And basically, I can see Michael is editing the page right now. So he's actually becomes the owner of the page, or the editor right now. And what that means is that I'm unable to make changes to the page. But quite often we want to, either transfer ownership, or we want to maybe add suggestions, pair coding, and certain things like that. So I'm going to have another window open here. I'm just going to open this up, and I'll jump in. So now you can see the three of us are on this page. And Michael, if you could just leave the page just for a sec, he's just going to give me control over it. And you're going to notice that right now I can't make any saves here in the app. And then when Michael exits that page, wherever it may be, I think it's him. There you
there we
go.
go.
Yeah. All right. So you notice that this particular tab now became the new owner, right? So that's one of the things that we've added. This is using our new messages feature that we rolled out about 6 months ago. It's actually not, there's no server involvement to do this kind of thing. And it's really surprisingly easy. Basically what's happening is this tab is sending a ping, and it's saying, hey, I'm on this entity, this particular page. And that ping goes out every 4 seconds as a message. The other tabs listen, and they keep a manifest of who's on what. And if they happen to be on that same ID, in other words, if they match, then they know that the other person is there. And that's how we get that effect. We also have implemented another feature. If I say, this says Michael test, and if I say Michael's test here, and you notice it over here, it says Michael test again still. And if I save that to Michael's test, ignore this message, that's just for debugging. You notice that this other tab here updated as well. So what that means is now when you have something open and you make a save, that save gets propagated out to all of the other developers who are working in that environment. We don't have a ton of people. We have maybe a dozen or so developers that have multiple developers in their house. This is something that, because we eat our own dog food, that we implemented for ourselves because we're always stepping on each other's toes. And I think it's going to be a nice feature to keep all your tabs in line. The technique that we involve, the technique we came up with for this is really nice, and we're starting to implement this in other apps as well, where we keep the data in FileMaker in sync in real time with the front end. So that's some new stuff that's coming along there. I'm gonna stop my share. If anybody have any questions about that.
No, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's to build it and to see it working. Hassan did some of the coding on and myself on this, and it was really fun. Really fun. All right. Okay. Well, I'll leave it at that. And that's going to be this collaboration will be rolling out. It will be rolling out in our next deployment, which is probably around mid-January or so. And you'll see that in the app.
Charles,
Yes.
so with that, is there any way of having like a change log between the changes between the users?
Well, it's funny you mention that. So if I go into here, and actually, Andrew, do you want to demonstrate that feature? The rollback?
Yeah,
Or I can do it now too if you want. Doesn't matter.
sure, you can go ahead.
Okay. So Andrew built this feature. Andrew and Jason worked on this feature together. And basically, you see, you go into the actions menu here, and there's this feature called rollback. So I click on rollback, and here is some of these version numbers are not fully implemented here, but here is the history and of all of my changes. And is that, just wondering here. 12,
Basically,
24.
these are all the previous saves of your forms that you could roll back to.
Right. Oh yeah, I haven't saved that. Of course, I made the change. Actually, I did make a save, so I'm surprised I don't see the last one. But anyway, oh, this is a previous one, right? Sorry. All right, so I want to roll back to this previous form here, and if I click continue here, you can read some Latin here, which this is a new feature, so the verbiage is not finalized here. But if I click roll back, the page actually rolls back, and you notice it went back to Michael test instead of Michael's test.
Right.
Right. And I guess there's probably a small little glitch in here that we probably haven't broadcast that information out. So we'll keep that covered up for now, and we'll report that as an omission. But so yeah, so we do have that history. You can also the versions, there's some, and this is a dev server. So there the versions of the version controlling and the version number are semantic with the deployments as well. So if I deploy from development to production, and then all my versions start fresh again from there. So it gives you a better idea of where you are at. Okay, we'll leave it at that. David, I think you're up next. You said you had something you wanted to present something for Dave Paul.
Sure.
And if you're not ready, we can swap as well.
I can go here. You guys can see that blank screen?
Looks good.
So I did this a little bit different. So I got a couple of little videos and I got a short demo of the app. So let me just start this guy up. Okay, so this is the FileMaker app that the lawyers would log into. Whoops. And so Charles, part of this we're going to probably have to redact out of your video because there's some client info. So when they log in, they get into a dashboard, and then basically what I did is we put in a type ahead function in here, right? That allows them to get to the files really quickly. So I then can click this. This would take them into the actual case management of the file. There's other sections in here. So basically the screens they stay the same, and this rolls through the different sections so that they can see the information, right? One of the things that people or users of FileMaker have is people will accidentally go into the fields and overwrite the existing data. For example, they might go into that first name field and then tap it, right? So we basically put some stuff in to protect it so that if you try and tap into something, you actually have to say you want to edit it, or that allows you not to overwrite the data. Or you can hit the little pencil and that puts it into a change mode, and I can make that change and then save the information, right? So that protects it. Now, I have a full audit on every field anyway, so that we have a situation where we know who changed what at what time and what the previous value was. So if we ever had to go back, then we can actually see that. Down the side is the main navigation, and basically these here with the cases works sort of like the same with the like the dashboard with the type ahead, and then basically you can go through the document section, expirations, things like that, right? So that's the basic system, right, in the FileMaker side. Okay, so let me exit out of that. Now the better form scenario, we have the basic login. Well, we actually have them register, right, when they create the login, but after they go through all of the validations and stuff, they actually come in here and then they get into their own dashboard. Now, this is my test one, so there's not a lot of stuff in here, but it just gives you an idea of what we have set up so that they would actually see their trips that they've created. They would see messages that we actually send from FileMaker to the dashboard. And then if they're doing a new trip, they would start with a click. This asks a bunch of admissibility information because if you have like a DUI, it's actually an offense in the States, I think. So they need to know all that stuff. So basically, once they answer these questions, the individual can complete the trip, or they can actually assign it to their admin person, right? If they assign it to the admin person, then basically a message comes up saying, okay, we're going to send a message to your admin. She's going to log in and they'll complete the trip. I'm going to complete this one myself just to show you that it comes up with the next form. Let's see here, right? So there you get all the fields. Any data that's sitting in the database will get pulled across so they don't have to refill it back in. And then basically they fill it in, they sign it, and then they submit it, right? So that's the basic operation of the system, right? If we go to the document section, they can upload, exchange documents, and then basically they can view them if they want. The preview comes up. And that's pretty well the traveler dashboard, right? You know, there's some stuff for like expiring docs and stuff like that, just to give them the notification. Now, the solution requires or has multiple people accessing the system. So this is the login for the HR lead. So if I log into this, again, this is my test account, so there's no real info here. And their dashboard is a little different, all right? Just wanted to show you that. Okay, so again, they get to see the trips that come in, document section, things that need to be signed by the company, completed, and expiries, right? So those are the two that I'm going to sort of show you. I'm going to go back to another little quick video to just finish off the Prezzo here. Where is my player here? So essentially, there's the main database. The law firm's clients has 4 potential different groups of people that have access to the data, and they all have different privileges. The law firm mainly has lawyers and the admin, right? Essentially, all the data needs to flow between the different parties. Now, when they log in initially, I didn't show you this. We actually have to have them sign a confidentiality. So that's checked off right at the beginning. If they don't agree, then they don't have access to the system. So we basically don't get them into the system. This is one of the other dashboards for the designates. So if the traveler says, I want my designate to fill it in, then that person would log in. They would have a dashboard. They would see the trips that have been assigned to them to complete. Now, the HR one I could not show you. That one actually is live, and it actually has a lot more functionality and a lot of the data. One of the things that IT came back with was they needed a corporate policy thing where they needed to be able to disable the logins in case of a termination. So we put that in the hands of the HR person, right, to deal with that. Now, the documents we store in Amazon, thanks to Andrew and helping me out on this. So we got all this working. One of the things is that they meet the security level for the Law Society. Now, we talked about the UX. We didn't do much on the UX on the dashboards, but I just wanted to give you guys a preview of, this is one of the first systems I did in FileMaker. It looks very FileMaker-ish like. That was back in 2010. In another scenario in 2018, I had to do one for litigation. So I got a UX person involved, and then she came up with a different interface, right? And then basically I've evolved it to this for this situation, right? Okay, on the UX side. Now the forms, we didn't do anything because all these guys are used to going into some government sites, and those sites are really bad, right? So we're way ahead of the game, right? But we are going to be redesigning all the web portals, but we need to finalize a bunch of the pieces still in the solution. A couple of tips: keep your code really short, okay? Because in a couple of scenarios, I found some timeout issues. So I have lots of hook sets as opposed to one big giant hook with lots of branches in the code. The other thing I did is I modified the helper because there was a lot of debugging going on with these users, and when you have a lot of users in there, there's a lot of user errors. So I needed to be able to use the helper file so that I could actually get to the information really quickly. Thank you.
So Dave, so you're basically kind of getting an MVP out the door, and then you're going to redesign and tighten everything up kind of then. That's your goal, is that?
Yeah, so basically, the way we approached this was not to complete it finished, right? Because, you know, I'm sure you guys have been down this road where you start a project. I know I've done one, for example, a large corporate client, right? They actually handed the spec, built it exactly that way, and then, you know, it didn't work, right? We had to change it, but it was their spec, right? So this one, we actually engaged a client, and they actually guinea pigged the thing, and we were building it on the fly based on how they needed the system to work. Okay, the dashboard on the FileMaker thing, I had an idea of what was needed. We made some changes to today because back in 2010, the things where the requirements were slightly different in terms of, you know, interacting with the government sites and Law Society rules and stuff. So so this one is a perfect example of like a SaaS product, because when we sign these guys up, one of the things that we have to deal with is 7-year data retention for the documents, right? So that means that we hook them in for 7 years of recurring revenue, right? Because we're going to be storing the documents in Amazon. So that's why I said we're gonna start flipping this over in the new year once I get all the last couple of bits completed, right? So now basically, like I said in the first slide, right, you know, I'm not going out positioning myself as a FileMaker guy anymore, right? It's not the it's not the let's say the bread and butter, right? From that standpoint, I think the recurring revenue model with the SaaS thing is a much better setup, right?
Agreed. Actually, maybe next time we can have Jason Wood. He's got a couple. He's been structuring some of his projects. I don't think he's on a call today, but maybe we can have a whole talk on just that, on positioning apps as SaaS apps, or we call it app as a service, where it's basically just selling the process of the app, not so much software as a service.
We had some questions in the chat there.
Mhm.
One from Dan who asks, did you build your own vanilla FM auditing, or did you use something external or some plugin?
No, there was one of the guys at because I go way back, right? So I've seen a ton of stuff in the past, right? And there was the two brothers that were doing the plugins. They released some code way back that did an audit, right? That was really cool the way they set it up. And then they actually turned that into a plugin so that they could monetize on it, right? Because obviously, you know, it's a need, right? So so I basically use that code that they originally let out in the wild way back, and that's the same code that I've been using to do the audit and stuff like that, right? So it just turns all the data into XML, and it does a comparison between the XML prior, you know, so that when you go into the layout, it grabs all the data, and then as you make the change, it does a comparison inside with a calc. Super fast, and it works like a charm.
Awesome. And we have another question from Chris who asked, what technique are you using to prevent/allow editing? Two sets of fields with show/hide, or two identical layouts, or something else?
No, that's just one field that's just invisible on top, and it just has a script trigger on it, right? So if you tap it, then I pop the message up, and then if you either hit the pencil or you continue with the script, I set the flag to disable that one field, and then you can get to the field to make the change. And then once they save it, it just prevents because I see so many systems where the first record is always the dummy record because so many guys change the information on that one record and stuff like that. It's just the way FileMaker works, right? So so then it was like, okay, wait, you got a law firm here with admin people and stuff, and same thing happens, right? They go by accident, and then it's like, wait, or am I in find mode or whatever? And I don't know how many times I've seen a guy go in find mode and start typing into the fields thinking they're putting data into the system, right?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave, CNS plugin, CNS audit.
Yeah, it was those guys that did it. But before they did that plugin, they actually had code out that allowed you to do the audit.
Right. I put the link in the chat to that plugin.
I think Wim actually did or a Prezzo on an audit that he actually came up with as well. So
Cool.
you can check his stuff out. But there's other stuff out there now, right? In terms of auditing and stuff. And those are things that you need when you get into some of these corporate environments, right? It's one of the first things they want is who's auditing the fields and stuff like that, right? Or the data. So you have to have it in there, right?
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Dave.
No problem.
Next, we have Eduardo, who's going to be presenting on progressive web apps and where we are at with that.
Yes. So, hey, good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen. Is it this one?
Eduardo's in the middle of a snowstorm, so he's lost his.
Yeah. I don't know how my video and audio is coming out there, but yeah, I had to hotspot my phone so I could get data.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, okay, that's good then. So yeah, as Charles mentioned, I'm gonna be talking about PWA, which is like progressive web applications. And it's a concept, so like it's not just a specific app or something, a package that comes with, no, but as the name says, it's progressive. So it's gonna use the features that are available in the browser or in the mobile device or on the laptop as well. So one the characteristics that kind of couldn't be more useful for us would be like it's installable and it's not dependent on the internet. So it is possible to use it online as well. One sec, that my second screen is connected. So the idea here is to do a quick show of how this would help with the performance as well. So in our case here, what would happen, this is like a regular app that is just a template that we have, so I didn't change anything. As you can see, like when you change between pages, there's kind of this loading stage. So with our base code that supports the PWA features, everybody that's using that base code would get a improved performance right away without doing anything, without changing anything. So the first time you visit the page, it still has some load time, but then once you visit it, that's cached locally, so everything is instant. You don't have loading time anymore. And important parts of our base codes it's loaded beforehand as well. So even when we refresh, it's a bit quicker than here. It's a slight difference because there's no libraries involved in this app, and there's not data or anything going on. So it's way lighter than regular apps. But yeah, as you can see, like it's instant now. Even for refresh, the data is still here, so you can navigate around. It's very more responsive than we currently have. So that's one advantage. But the other one that's pretty interesting is to be able to get your apps and make it feel like a native app as well. We can make them installable. And in order to accomplish that, all we would need would be a manifest. So I'm just using this code here very quick because it's not a lot of code, but it's just too much to feel live. So this would be all you needed. And then once you have all this filled up, your app, refresh. So you see here the option to install it. So then this is the icon I use there and everything.
It's funny, that doesn't show up actually on our Zoom, but there's a,
really?
There's a native window that's showing up.
Oh, right. Yes. My bad. So yeah, I don't know if you've noticed some websites, after you're navigating around for a bit, it shows up like an option to install. And that would be what the PWA is doing. So if I think I can show this now then. So what we do, we trap the action from the browser itself that the browser is throwing, like asking the user if the user wants to install the app. We trap that, and then you can customize to use wherever you want to call these actions instead of letting the browser do the call. So then for this example, I'm just using a Modo, or yeah, show Modo here. And what that's gonna do is whenever the user comes here, loads the app, I guess you guys can see now. So then it shows these options if you want to install it. And then if you end up installing, it's gonna show the native window, and then you can install, and that's it. I'm out of the browser. So now it works the same as an app that installed in my laptop, because I can go here. Let me see if I can find. So even if I go on the Launchpad,
Oh
the
yeah,
app is right here.
Actually, Eduardo, because
My bad. So anyways, yeah, the sharing doesn't work as expected. Can you see my search bar?
no.
Nothing. Okay, should have done that before.
Or you can just share your whole desktop if you want. No.
Yeah.
So the next time the user launches this, he does it as an app, not within the browser.
Correct.
We also had a comment from Dan who asked if it's just a Chrome thing or does it work with Safari and macOS?
It works with other browsers too. I can,
Yeah, we won't be able to see it because I think you're just sharing that one.
yeah,
We are recording this.
okay.
So
So it
that's-
does work. And it works on phones as well. You can, I can actually show a more interesting example that Charles built here. Oh, it's paused. Why resume is not working?
The PWA on its own can't be submitted to the App Store, but you can easily wrap it with some of the some off-the-shelf products if you wanted to, and then it effectively acts like a fully native app that you have in the App Store. I should note though that a lot of times the goal people always have this desire to have an app in the App Store, but in actuality, it really depends on what you're using your app for, whether it makes any sense or not, because most people won't install just random apps that they're only using, in transit. If you have a legitimate app that warrants constant use and it's not your fleet or something like that, then it makes sense. But otherwise, you can just install it locally. And when you do install it locally, it looks like, I don't know if you can see my camera here, but there's I think this is the one that Eduardo's going to demonstrate. Maybe there's an app right there,
Yeah.
and that is, it looks and feels like a regular native app.
Yeah. So this is the app I'm gonna show now. It's the next one.
Yeah, you can't see it because
Okay.
you're sharing. No, you'll have to share your whole desktop. I think.
You can see the Chrome?
No.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh. I
You'd
thought it was.
probably have to stop and restart your sharing.
Oh, I think this went to the other screen. Can you see now?
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay. So this app just built a quick example app, so where you can download and show pictures. The other thing that this app's using, it's a Firebase background, so it can sync the apps, but this can be shown quick here. So if I start editing, it's gonna show up on the other side.
I should note I'm entering data on my phone at the same
Yeah.
time. The bottom one there.
So then this works. And one interesting thing we can test is, it might take a while, but let me go offline quick here. Should show a message saying that you're offline.
I know it does stop working right away, like when I've tested it, like for offline.
So then what would happen is if I take a picture here, so I'm taking a picture. This is done, but it did still came here because I'm not offline yet. Let me delete it. Go back. Yeah, for some reason, this didn't work. Oh, because I closed. Keep this open. Okay, done. Then I now have a picture here, but didn't come up here yet because I'm offline on this side. So the app is working fine offline because all the pages are loaded locally and everything works as expected, even the library, because we're using a library here to use the camera. But then as soon as I go back online, everything should sync. And then you'll see the picture increasing the number here. There you go. The picture is here now. So yeah, I think that's it for the PWA.
Can I ask a
Anybody
question?
has any? Yep.
If so you've connected and you've brought everything down to your browser, and then you go offline. Is there a way to allow you to start off offline?
Yes, not initially. Like
Yeah.
you have to be connected because you're getting everything from the web, right?
You
But once
can't-
you've run the app once online, then everything
after that very first time, you mean?
correct.
So then it's cached it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
That-
updates accordingly. Like if you make a save, it will update, but then you need an internet connection again to get the new updates. But
Right,
once you
right.
visit it once, it's cached there, and the user can use offline.
So
Even if
updates
they
not
close the
meaning
browser.
updates not meaning data, but like if somebody was to redesign this page
Mhm.
to a version 2 of the page, the offline apps are still running on version 1. The minute they connect, the entire app updates
Mhm.
to your latest version. Right?
That's
So
it's incredibly useful. Is there anything that could cause the cache to get dumped?
it's using underneath the
Not at
hood
the moment.
to get at the technicals. It is using IndexedDB. It's not using local storage, which can be evicted, but it's using IndexedDB underneath in this particular case, which is
Oh yeah.
pretty solid. It's designed. That's what basically almost all local apps use. Like they use a version of Firebase that's local on the system. The amount of storage you have is basically the device storage. So if you have 20 gigabytes on your phone that are free, you can literally have that many files on your device. I have seen some things that they say that it may not be guaranteed, so you probably want to sync reasonably often, but it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, is it in here that you show the available? Yeah. So you can see the available storage, like the browser for this example, it's actually letting the user use the whole, like whatever storage is available out there. It's not limiting anything.
There's a question, why do you not create the same function to use the Better Forms app? Then we log into the developer side. The reason why we don't make the developer app offline is because there's a ton of code in there. And if you think about making something run offline, it's like, is it really sort of necessary? Now, in fairness, probably with about a week or two of really hard work by maybe 3 or 4 people on the team, we could probably make the entire editor run offline. But then there's other technical aspects, like how does that work with our cloud? Like Better Forms that you use is only part of our code base. We have, all of the code that's running on our data centers that's serving this stuff up. So the app, the editor communicates with that. So it's not an easy technical thing, but it is possible. Oh, online, sorry. Yeah, and these performance benefits that you get from this, everybody will get that as soon as we push out this code base. This is our next version of base code. The PWA stuff some of the PWA stuff is available now, I think, is it not, Eduardo?
No, we don't have anything available now. No,
All right, sorry.
just in dev.
All right, awesome.
Yeah,
Any
I
questions
think
about that?
that's it for me.
Okay, if there's no other questions, next we have Andrew, Jason, and Alex. We're going to be talking about some software testing.
Yep. So our newest team member, Alex, was going to be involved in this demo, but unfortunately his place lost power. But Jason and I have been involved in the process. So we'll be demoing it today. Jason, maybe you can give us an overview of what this is.
Okay, I should be sharing my screen right now. So what everyone's staring at is UILicious. And just to go back, Alex is the newest member of our team. He's brought on to help really bring in a lot of quality assurance techniques. And one of these is a program called UILicious that will allow us to do some automated testing of workflows. And we're trying to put the limits of it some because it's integrated with the backend database. So in addition to automating the workflow, it generates the test data and will automatically clean up test data, even if the test were to actually fail. So what I'm going to do is do a brief test or just a brief demo of one of the workflows with our clients. The idea of the client is you're logging into a portal and pulling up a survey, and then you're emailing a link to someone else who knows more about the data being collected than the person running the survey. And that person received the link, opens up the link and fills out the survey information, and also register to use the portal. So once I click run, you'll see on the right-hand screen kind of step-by-step what's going on the front end. And then after this, I think I'll let Andrew jump in to talk a bit about some of the technical aspects of how it works.
Sure. So what Yourlicious does is essentially simulates a user using the app and going through the workflow. So as Jason said, on the right side, you can kind of see the bot going through the app, going through each script step that we outlined in Yourlicious. And if any errors pop up, it'll pop up in the console on the bottom right there.
You don't see everything render because the snapshot of the automation doesn't always take a snapshot right when the browser draws it, but it is seeing it. It's just
it's
so quick.
Starting to see it now. Actually, at the very beginning, what you saw was some creation of some test data. Now you're seeing images from the actual app as they're going through and they create a survey. They're adding a supplier to this survey. They're about to click that airplane link to notify someone at this particular test mill that and send them a link so that they can fill out some data.
And the benefit of using an automated test workflow is that you can schedule tests to run every day, every week, etc. And anything that goes wrong, it can output it into an email or a Slack message outlining what went wrong and giving you the full information in the report.
And this is good, especially in dev environment, because we're just constantly making changes, adding in new features or responding to client feedback. And having tests like this that will run every day will let us know immediately if we made a change that affected one of the core workflows, because that often happens. We're working on workflow A and we find out down the road that something happened, something we did in workflow A affected workflow B. So this will allow us to know much more quickly if anything we did in one part of the app affects somewhere else and be able to plan and respond accordingly. So that's basically the workflow in there. So it ran through that. A bit of the back end of how this works is we have an on-form request page where we send various items in the query in terms of indicating what it is we want them to do. So for example, right at the beginning of the app, we send in the query an item value trigger test mode. This sets the in a cookie that we're in test mode so that the system will know any data created during the test will be flagged as test data and we can thereby grab it and delete it at the end of the test. In fact, you can see that here in another one here. So at the beginning and at the end of every test, we send a call to the back end to delete test data. And what that will do is it will go through all the tables and collect any record that were flagged as test data and delete it, because one of the biggest concerns is data that was ran in previous tests could have an impact on subsequent tests. So we want to make sure that we delete all the test data.
I guess if you're doing data cleanup, that means you can effectively run this on a production system if you wanted to, as long as you have the confidence that you're cleaning up after yourself.
Correct. Andrew, is that there any other kind of key sort of features we want to touch on, or is that basically it?
So that's mostly it. So regarding the cookie, essentially we needed a way for FileMaker to know that the data we're creating in this test is test data, and that it should be flagged so that when we do the delete process, it can go through, find all the fields that have the flag set to 1, and then just delete it. And a cookie was a great way to have it persist throughout the test, because for this testing example, we're going between 2 different domains. We have the survey side and the portal side. So the cookie needs to be set for both domains. And it does work, and when we delete, it does clear out the data. So we found that to be the best method, but there are we tried other methods of setting the flag, but we did find the cookie was the most effective. But I noticed the test errored out there, but it did stop without catastrophic error.
Actually, I think that's one other piece we could mention in here is that it's important that even if the test errors out, that will clean test data at the end. So we have certain mechanisms. Where is one of them? This one right here. And Andrew, maybe you want to give the quick kind of 30-second description of what that does?
So normally, when a UIlicious test fails, it will continue to run the subsequent steps unless an error pops up that would cause the entire test to fail entirely. A common error that happens here would be when you try to go to a URL, but the URL you give it is undefined. That would cause the test to stop running and doesn't run the rest of the script, which is an issue if you need to run some kind of cleanup script at the end of the process. Notice here we're trying to calculate a URL on line 92 there, and then we're going to catch it on line 96 and make sure that URL exists. If it doesn't exist, we're going to run a subsequent function that kind of cleans up our test data from that point without doing the go to URL. I did notice that this script is probably the old version that runs the delete test data. But we have essentially 2 scripts that we run, one called delete test data and one called stop the test. Essentially, stopping the test would make sure it doesn't run any new anything else after the script runs. If you've done FileMaker, single loop error traps is a very similar concept where we're catching the error, then we're stopping the rest of the script from running.
And
yep, sorry.
Just to interject, and you can see that actually in play. So you see here in red something went wrong, and if I look at the end, it says URL is null. So it did actually fail here. And this actually, and if you look at this code right here, where this says item equal delete test data. So this says that even though the test failed, it still did actually call the delete test data.
Right. Yeah, while running the script, I did notice, I think I know why the test failed to begin with, but we can talk about that.
That's okay. We don't have
Yes.
to.
We'll talk about that afterwards.
Talk about it.
It's a black hole there.
Very cool.
Everybody will pipe up on that one. So this is pretty interesting. Now we're testing a web app. You can test. We use this actually. The same thing it runs on our marketing site and a few other things as well. But you can, I believe, you can use this on WebDirect and test your FileMaker code, because once WebDirect renders, it's still HTML on the front, at the end of the day. And this is just looking at that. So it can look for things. So it can walk you through a whole WebDirect session. You can look for certain aspects that are on your page, certain words and stuff. And you can use that to test your native FileMaker walkthroughs, which I don't think I see anybody ever doing, because that's not a thing that we do in FileMaker testing as much. But it's really, really easy. You can see how easy from the code on the side. I fill out this, I see that, I click this, I weight this. It's super, super easy. It's just JavaScript, but it's kind of wrapped up in a very user-friendly library. Any questions from anybody on that stuff for these guys?
There was something in the chat.
Charles, just want to add, this thing's useful, especially when I was doing that form thing with the legal. Imagine filling in these giant forms 15, 20 times, right? I just used one of these to build out the form thing, and then as there was errors, you can make the correction and retest without actually typing it yourself. And yeah, so it's very useful. Right, anything repetitive, it's crazily useful for stuff like that. So
there are other programs that do this as well. This is only one of, maybe a dozen or so. They're generally slightly on the expensive side because while that test was running, it's running at maximum capacity. So it's maxing out the CPU on that side because it's trying to load stuff in and click on things immediately. And it's using up a session effectively of compute time. So if your test runs for 10 minutes, that's using up 10 minutes of a CPU. So it ends up becoming a little bit expensive. But these guys have some sales on, and I've posted them in the past where it's like, I think Neil and Dave, you guys took advantage of that. And you get a great deal. We pay $10 a month. It's normally $100 a month, but so you watch out for those promotions and jump on that.
I got a lifetime access deal. I paid once, that's it. So I'm not monthly at all now for this.
I think that's the one that you posted, Charles. I did the same, and I've just never used it. But I just fill the form in every time, so I'm going to now.
Yeah, and it's really easy. I mean, if you ever want to introduce somebody who's younger, like a child to coding and stuff like that, this is a great opportunity because it's very step based. It's almost like those languages like Turtle and stuff. I go forward, I turn left, I turn right. It's the same sort of an idea. All right, thank you guys. Next we have Hassan with he's going to be presenting an app that he's worked on with one of his clients.
Yeah, so I'll share my screen over here. So this is the Parnas app. What it is it's a gift app. So you'll be able to enter a code and then you can choose the gift you want. Is my screen sharing?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, yeah. So over here, I have the side-by-side view of both the mobile and the actual app. So just because they're intended to work for both, so you guys can get a good idea of how it looks on both sides. I'm just going to enter a code on both. And this is similar to the app that was presented earlier by Michael, the fashion detail app. So when you get in, you have a bunch of categories from which you can select what you want to get. And all of these are coming straight, all the images are coming straight from the backend, from FileMaker, even the category names. So it's just a good view on both sides. And then I'll hop into a category over here. And stuff is all in Swedish, so I'm not really sure exactly all the words. And let me hop in on here as well. And you can get a good view for all of them. Nice. And then one feature that was implemented was over here, so load more. And this is so we wouldn't get all the data at once and it wouldn't be slow. So if you want to see more options, you can click that and it'll load more. Over here, I'll just click into first thing. Over here, we also have breadcrumb navigation on the top as well, so you can go between each thing. And this is the mobile view right here. And I'll just fill in some stuff. All of these have specific validation. The numbers all have to be 10 integers, and same with the zip code has to be 5. I can't type in letters here because it has to be numbers. It's a fairly small app, and right here I'll click confirm. And that's done. And what I also wanted to show off about this app was, so this was the first app I built. And a good part, what I used for this was Tailwind UI. And so a lot of the pages were very easy to build because they're pretty much from here. And I just copied them over, made some edits. And I feel for new people to using like FileMaker, the front end, is a very good way to start because a lot of this stuff's already kind of built out for you. So let me go into one of the pages I kind of used. Right here, so the product list. This is similar to what I had in the first page, which I'll go into right here. Oh, type that in wrong. And you see right over here, all this whole page, the category view page and detail page, which is with the help of Tailwind UI. And then I'll just finish off this one as well. And then here we go. It was a small app, and yeah, I think that's all for this app.
This app is actually kind of interesting. Marcus in Sweden, the app owner, he has a company that does ad specialty type items. So they have access to a lot of these types of items and things. So as a sideline to their business, they've extended this ability. So if you have a reasonable sized corporation and you want to give all your team a Christmas bonus or a sales bonus, you can specify a certain code, and that code will be in a certain price range, say $100 to $150. And only those items that are within that price range will actually be displayed in the app.
Yeah, additionally, the items are also displayed based off of editions and those things. So like the people only this card, the first one I used was edition A. So they see items that only belong to edition A. And over here, I'm showing how the fields get populated after they're all entered in the FileMaker side. So even has the image of the item they're getting, so he knows everything what to do.
Nice and clean, really clean. Does anybody have any questions about this at all? All right. Okay, thanks, Hassan. Next, we have Christina, and she's going to talk about a new feature that she built.
Yep, I'm Christina, and I have screen